Welcome back to the Better Everyday podcast, where we are unlocking our best self one episode at a time. My name is David Garcia, and this is my beautiful wife, Grace Garcia, and this is episode 38.
That's crazy.
We are days. This is recorded before, but this will come out days after Thanksgiving.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, so happy Thanksgiving. Episode 37 was her girl episode. And I don't think she knew when it was going to land. So if she would have known, she would have said happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But we are saying it now. Episode 38. This is the Monday after Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope it was filled with love, filled with family, good food. And I hope that you guys took your time to say it out loud, which I think is like the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. And if not, write it. Or if not, just pray it. Just all the reasons why you're thankful.
Yeah.
I think just that's what Thanksgiving is really about. That moment of reflection of like, what am I thankful for? Where did I come from? Where am I now? Where is God taking me? All those things. Like we've done a tradition for the last, I started it when I met you and your family. And it was just every Thanksgiving we go around saying what we're thankful for. And we've had some very beautiful moments in the last couple of years when we say say what we're thankful for. For me, for sure, it's you, it's the kids, it's living the life that I always prayed for and dreamed of. And so I'm thankful for you, babe.
I love you. I'm thankful for you too.
And on that same note, because I'm so thankful for you, today's episode has to do with me and you.
Ooh, ooh.
A little bit about me and you.
Oh,
we put ourselves out there just because, we're obviously doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And this topic the topic for today is actually called Love and Respect. There is a book that we have read together, and I think we should probably read it again.
I agree. I'm down to do it whenever you want to.
But we read it. This was before we got married.
Yeah. Before
we got married, her mom recommended some books to us, and one of them was Love and Respect. And the book is called Love and Respect by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs. I don't know if it's Eggerichs or Eggerichs, but it's Eggerichs. It's a beautiful book. What is it about, you might be asking? Well, obviously it's about relationships. It's a little about marriage. It's about man and woman.
Yeah.
And what the book is really about, and the reason why it's called Love and Respect is because this doctor goes into depth about how a man receives love and how a woman receives love, and that how it's different. And I don't know if it was this book or another book that kind of like really shed light on the beauty of how God created us in regards to there's a reason why a woman is a woman. There's a reason why a man is a man. We are all created in God's image. And so since we're created in God's image, that whatever it is that he placed in the feminine soul, it's part of him. Mm-hmm. And whatever he placed in the masculine soul, it's part of him. And it's a piece of him and a piece of him. But when we come together, we see more of a fuller picture of who he is.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And so one thing that I've had to learn big time, and I think I've said it here before, was just being okay with our differences. Because there was a season in our life where I was really trying to make you into another version of me. And it took a while, but I finally had to learn, and I accepted that you are a different person, that you are not the same person that I am or never will be. That it's okay for us to be different, and we are actually better when two different people come together in agreement in life. So this book, again, talks about how a woman receives love, how a man receives love. And so how a man receives love is through respect. What that looks like, it's in the book. How a woman receives love is through love. The very typical love that you would expect when you think about love. So it's the words, it's the romancing, it's the sweeping her off her feet, right? And we would highly recommend this book to all of you. Anybody who's in a relationship or thinking about being in a relationship, we highly recommend this book to you guys. It's very, very good. We're planning to read it again, and I think it's going to help us and bless us in a big way again. I think there's going to be a lot of things that we read this time that we probably understand differently today than we did back then, which was like 7 or 8 years ago.
No, before marriage would have been 9.
Yeah. And so we probably interpret it differently, accept it differently, and I think it's going to help us in a big way. And we believe that it's a very important topic and a great topic for a podcast. And so let's get into it. You guys just heard me say, a man receives love through respect and a woman receives love through love. So if I were to ask you, Grace, how would you interpret everything that you've read in this book or that you remember of how a woman receives love? And it should be kind of easy because, I mean, you're a woman, so you should kind of like correlate. So that, and the reason why I asked that, and I mean, if you have ears, please listen, is because one thing, when we went to therapy, the first lady that we went to go see, she kept talking about this golden ticket. Golden ticket, golden ticket. David, you hear that? That's the golden ticket. David, hear that? That's the golden ticket. And in the context that we were in, the golden ticket was always, cha-ching, I'm going to get some. And, because it's kind of typical for a man to, just want it a lot. And the woman, I mean, depending on who you're talking about, and I'm maybe overgeneralizing it, but usually a woman, you gotta start those engines. You gotta warm them up. You gotta rev it up a little bit. You gotta make sure that the motor's ready for you to start driving that thing. Whereas a man, like, we're pushed to start, like, boom, we're ready to go, like. And so she kept talking about the golden ticket. Like, you hear that, David? If you were just to listen, she's giving you the golden ticket of like giving you what you want, really. And so that's why I asked you, and that's why I'm telling you guys, pay attention, because for the guys, this is definitely a big insight to a woman's heart and a woman's soul. And you being able to hear and listen and accept and work for can be the golden ticket for you. And so, how does a woman receive love? How do you receive love?
Women are so different, and so obviously this is a blanket statement. I think majority can find themselves in this category, but again, it's not like one size fits all. But this is based off of like the majority that the doctor in the book found. Yeah, I think it's interesting just how we kind of give love. That's kind of how we receive it. I think that's typically, you can see that in men and women, kind of how they usually give it is usually how they would like to receive it. And so, again, it's difficult. My mom always made a joke how men see the world and hear the world through like these blue lenses, and women hear the world and see the world through pink lenses, and kind of recognizing that and trying to see things or hear things how one others see things can be challenging. But I think as women, we're natural caregivers. We're natural like nurturers, and we are tender. I think when we have newborns and when we have children, there's this tenderness to it. And I think that's what women kind of crave too. They crave words of affirmation, tenderness. They crave like closeness, emotional closeness. How you said they crave romance. But I think so many women, I think what we're tired of or kind of maybe a little bit scared of is it seems like a lot of men give that when they're looking for something in return. And when men can give it without like, okay, well, I just gave you words of affirmation. Like, am I going to get some tonight? Or I just cuddled with you. Like, where is this leading to? I think then it can slowly like build a wall where now when we once saw that as loving, when maybe in the dating stage, when we saw that as like sweeping us off our feet, then it can be like, like annoying, or like, oh, he's just gonna want something, and it's hard to put our guard down and be like, oh, he's doing it. Like you have to like relearn that and retrust each other, and like he's doing it because he loves me, not just because he wants something.
Yeah.
But I do think most women, again, we're natural like caregivers, and we're naturally tender to our kids and to our spouses, and so we accept and feel love when we're being taken care of, when we're when we're being told all these nice things, and when we feel that closeness and those grand gestures. Like we want to feel conquered. We want to feel that we're worth something. We want to feel valued. Just how you see a diamond and you take care of it, that diamond, or flowers, and like those typical, stereotypical phrases, gentle things. I think that's how women feel. At least I feel loved.
Yeah, there's two things. One, what I heard you say is a woman wants something genuine, something pure, something that's not transactional, where we live in a very transactional world.
Yeah.
Even when we say we love each other, there's usually, you give me this, I give you that. And so I completely agree with you. And I think that one goes both ways. Both men and women want genuine love where it's not transactional. Because I think the women can do the same thing. I'm going to do this, but I expect this.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give you the goods, but after that, you got to go clean the house.
I completely agree.
The other thing, and I'm standing up for my men right now. Men.
You just asked me how did women feel loved.
No, I know. But listen. The reason why I say I'm standing up for men is because a man could be hearing what you're saying. And from my perspective, maybe you feel rushed in your answer. And so I want you to slow down and break it down. The reason why I say that is because a lot of what you said was very generalized. A woman wants to feel loved. A woman wants to be conquered. Like, what does that look like? Because, okay, here's one of the key differences between a man and a woman. A man is very logical and a woman is very emotional, right? So logic for us is, please just give us a plan, an outline even. Because us having to continually guess, and I can already hear the guys, men. Us having to continually guess sometimes leads us into failing. And then if the communication isn't 100% healthy, it could barrel down a hill very fast. Whereas, let's say I'm putting myself out there, I think I got a hint. I'm going to do this and this and this. And you go, so you're going to love me or what are you waiting for? And then you could already kind of start seeing what's happening here. I'm a man out of his good intention tried something. A woman did not catch what he was putting down or whatever. And so a woman goes, are you going to love me or what? The moment that a woman says that, the man, this is from a man's perspective, but a man goes, okay, I put myself out there. In between the lines, I was vulnerable. I tried. I genuinely tried, and I got rejected. So what happens to the man? He falls back, he retreats, and he goes, I'm not going to try that again. And so all that being said, could you be a little bit more specific when you say a woman wants to be conquered? A woman wants to be swept off her feet. She wants to be loved. She wants to be cared for. She wants to be listened to. She wants to be understood. Like, what do you mean by all this? Like, slow down. It doesn't have to go so fast.
Well, I mean, part of being conquered is like, if you're vulnerable and get shot at, an arrow thrown, you try again, right? A warrior tries again. Sorry. But I feel like
that's crazy.
I feel like so it's true. Like men back then were like out in war, like tried time again. I feel like some men just try once and it's like, I tried. And they just like give up. Like that's not conquering the spirit. But I digress. Let me give you examples. Women, there's something I know we're wired completely different, and it's like, God, why? Like it'd be so easy if a man can understand a woman and vice versa. Because I think of, as you were talking about that, I think of like my good friends. Like I'm thinking of like a Carrie, shout out, a Melody, like Priscilla, like where you say something and Carrie automatically is like, you sound like you have a busy day. Let me help you. Let me pick up the kids. Like, let me take them out. And I'm just like, oh, like, oh my goodness, she's going above and beyond. Like, thank you so much. I didn't say that. But she's like, no, you want to go to the spot? Why don't you have your husband drop them off? I'll watch them. And Melody is like, do you need me to come? Like, do you want me to go over? Like, do you want me to go to the store and get you something? If I tell her I'm sick or I'm overwhelmed, like, I'm sorry, what can I do? Priscilla, shout out with, we had our friend go through something difficult. She's like, why don't we throw a lunch? And like, no one asked for these things. And they like see you, they hear you, and they're like, it's not just hearing them. They're like, if I were in their shoes, what would I want? And they don't wait to be told. They just say, I'm going to do it because I love them. I see them. And if I were in their shoes, this is what I would want. And I think men always say like, well, how am I supposed to know? That's like good friends. Like they see you and I think they hear you. Again, I'm not expecting like men to automatically like think like it would be so much easier, but it takes practice of like being intentional. Yeah. I remember one time you did that and people would be like, what the heck? But I cried because you brought me Starbucks at a parking lot. But it wasn't just like, oh, you just grabbed it because you thought it would be nice. Like you heard me say like, I'm exhausted. And I didn't ask you to bring me coffee, but you brought it. And I'm like, he cared. He heard me. He saw me. I think a lot of women just want to be seen. And I think men, it just like goes over their heads. But if they just truly listened, I think so many of the times women are pouring their hearts out and guys are maybe like, again, logical. And they're like, or bored of it or something, and they kind of like they're hearing but they're not really hearing. Like they feel like this, how can I help them? It's just like I'm hearing for the simple sake of hearing. I think that'd go a long ways. But also, yeah, I think a lot of, at least for me, a lot of women like we're tired, and so how kind of goes that same thing, like be seen. I remember the therapist told you one time, like, why doesn't when she comes back from work you just like relax, like don't shove the kids in her face. And that made a huge difference of you just giving me time to like breathe and letting me see. But it all goes back to just being seen, and that can be reciprocated with words of affirmation. Like, I see you, you work hard, you deserve a break. Like I can't give you one right now. Maybe we're so busy, or maybe I wish I can give you finances, whatever it is. And you give them words of affirmation, or you give them physical, like, feeling of, wow, you're exhausted. Let me embrace you in this hug right now. Let's just lay down together. I hear that you're exhausted. Like, let me give you a massage or whatever, or whether it's acts of service. Like, I hear you need help around the house. Let me clean for you. That goes a long way. But I think as mothers and women and wives, we're so used to like kind of managing the house and telling people what to do. So it kind of like sucks if it's like, oh, I have to tell my kids what to do, and I have to tell my husband what to do. Like it can feel draining at times. And so I think that would go like a huge, work wonders in a marriage.
So the one resounding word that I keep hearing is consideration. Be considerate. Listen and be considerate. But again, standing up for my men. I get that. And it doesn't come easy to everybody.
Yeah.
For me, I usually fall in the tell me that you're having a hard day and tell me how can I fix it? Where you sometimes just tell me that you're having a hard day, and I'm kind of like, okay, you expect me to go through the list of things that could possibly, I've heard in the past, like could help you or a pick me up. Like a Starbucks is like an easy go-to, right? But here's the thing, and I keep going back to the responsibility, right? This responsibility of communication, the responsibility of, well, the question is who is responsible, right? And so let's say in a scenario, you say you're having a hard day, your work is stressing you out, and you have things on your plate, and you just need to relax, right? Here's the thing. A man can listen to this and be like, okay, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to have the one word consideration in my head. Consideration, consideration, consideration. When I hear my wife, consider, how can I help? Without being told, obviously. Because I get it. I get your point where you say, like, I tell my kids what to do. I tell the people at work what to do. And so for me to add on, like, okay, let me just control my husband and tell him what to do to make me feel better. Yeah, like I guess shaves off a little bit of that genuine consideration, right? For him to actually hear you and be like, oh, like I'll do this, being thoughtful. But here's the thing. A woman says, hard day, very exhausted, stressed out, anxiety, whatever you want to say. And the man, out of consideration, he's been thinking about this. I want to be a better husband. I'm going to be more considerate. Does something, whatever it is. Maybe he does something that he thought I saw in a movie once and it should work. Let's say flowers. But the wife doesn't care about flowers. It doesn't make her feel nothing. It doesn't make her feel rest. It doesn't make her feel happy, whatever. And there are husbands out there like this that like maybe they haven't fully grasped or made a list of all the things that could be a pick-me-up to the wife, right? Maybe they're newlyweds and he's still, again, we had that conversation before, like you can't compare an 8-year-old husband to a 10-day-old husband, right? He's figuring it out. So like a 10-day-old husband thinks about like, oh, it's a stereotypical thing that women love flowers. So he goes out and gets flowers and the woman feels nothing with the flowers. Now, I believe that the woman has a choice. Either she can be like, yo, I don't even like flowers. Like, you're not helping at all. Rejection makes the man retreat. Or she could be like, you know what? Let this just, like, in a way, go for this moment. Let me just appreciate the gesture. And maybe tomorrow when everything's, hopefully better, we could talk about, hey, babe, like, I really appreciate the gesture that you made.
Yeah.
But flowers don't really do anything for me. And that's an opportunity for a deeper communication to go. The husband goes, well, what would be a good pick-me-up? And maybe the wife rifles off some ideas, right? And I would say that the day after, hopefully she's not feeling like that stress anymore. Like it's a new day, maybe she's a little more refreshed, where it doesn't feel like, because I get it that in the moment of anxiety and stress and frustration and feeling exhausted, it does feel exhausted. Like, oh, now I got to tell you like how to make me feel better. Like, but maybe the day after, a little more refreshed, got some rest. It doesn't feel so like, oh, I have to tell him like my top 5 go-tos or whatever. Like hopefully it's not like that and the man can like take that in or whatever.
Yeah.
But my point is protecting both the man and the woman. The man tried. He was like, hey, I'm trying to be your prince in shining armor, getting you some flowers. The wife is like, this doesn't help, but it's the gesture that counts. What do you think?
I keep going back to that word like conquering. And maybe because I'm talking about the first empire in my social studies class, and then we're learning about their military, right? Like what was some military achievements, and we're going down like a list of military achievements, and I just looked up like the definition of conquer.
Yeah.
And it says overcome and take control of a place by use of military force. And I'm sure if you'd speak, I mean, I've never spoken to a general or anyone in the military or anything like that. But if you ask like, what was your strategy? They wouldn't pick like one strategy, right? Like again, we're going over the military achievements of the first empire, or so they say. And it's like a list, right? Like for the first time they used a formation, the first time they built towers for their archers, the first time they did like a moat, right? The first time they did like double walls. Like it's when you conquer something, it can't be pointed to like one strategy, one skill. Right. And so I think it's more of maybe the mindset. Like if the man comes with flowers and he's like, this will fix it, or I'm hoping that this kind of solves it then, like that's a bad outlook. If he comes with the flowers and has the mindset of like, I don't know if this is it. Like I'm here to conquer. Like I'm here to try it again. And maybe tell her that like, hey, all I could think of right now was the flowers. Like, does this help? Like, I love you. Can you let me know? Like, kind of be not thinking of like, oh, here's the flowers. Like, that is it. And then us girls, especially, I know like for a fact you, like back then you were really sensitive. And I'm like, oh, I don't like flowers. Like, I'm never going to do it again. So you kind of put it back, that load back on the girl. Like you're trying to help, but you kind of put it on her. Versus you're like, all right, here, this is the flowers. I want to help you. Like, what do you think? Like, did this help? And I'm sure as a woman, if you, because that's vulnerable too. Like, you're bringing flowers and you're kind of saying, like, I'm here to learn. Like, I'm here to, not just for the sake of making me feel good. I think a lot of men have that complex of like, oh, I brought you the flowers, like I'm good. And they kind of do it for themselves, or maybe in thinking that's the right answer and that's it, the final say. But when you're vulnerable and you're kind of putting it back to like, what is the issue? I'm here to make my wife happy. I'm not here to like solve the day and come like my bright and charming armor of like, the flowers, like look at this grand gesture. But you're like, let's go back to the issue at hand. Like, I think that vulnerable side of like, hey, I brought you this, I'm not sure. I feel like I'd be like, just the fact that you're asking me, again, just being seen. Like, I'm not huge on flowers, but just the fact that you asked and you brought the flowers and you have that vulnerable, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I love you, thank you. Because I think the same thing. One time you were like, would Chick-fil-A help or something like that? Like one day I was having a tough day and you're like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. Do you think grabbing Chick-fil-A would help? And I was just like, oh my goodness, thank you. And it wasn't just like the Chick-fil-A. It was you not knowing and telling me you don't know and giving me an like, hey, do you think this would help? And I don't think that like solved my issue, but it was like enough to be like, you know what? I love you. Like it brought us closer than you just assuming and just like here. And it wasn't, I guess, a conversation starter, or it wasn't a way to bring us closer. That's what I think. But I'd love to hear your thoughts because I already can see you're not convinced.
My opinion comes from obviously our own experiences. And if we've experienced it, I would assume other men have experienced it as well.
Okay.
You're having a hard day. Maybe I don't know what your ins and outs are yet. I bring you flowers. That for me is, hey, I don't know yet, but I'm going to try this. And hopefully it works, right? Bring you flowers. And let's say, you know, take a tiny step further and I knock on the door. I obviously have the keys to the door, right? But I knock on the door, you open, and I give you flowers. And I see your face, and it isn't, you know, oh my gosh, thank you. It's all right. And I go, like, I was trying to cheer you up, like that didn't help. And you go, no, that didn't help. Like, you got to put yourself in the man's shoes. Like, that's already a form of rejection. Not even a form. That's just rejection. Right? Like, and that's where what I was asking before is like, where is the level of appreciation of he did a gesture?
Yeah.
He didn't just not do nothing. Like, he could have been another version of me where I go, it's not that big a deal. Like, get over it.
No, you're right.
And so I also speak out of experience that the mindset of a woman during exhausted, stressed, frustrated, anxiety, you name it. How good of a mindset is she in at this moment? And the reason why I ask is you say, he should try with the flowers and then ask, hey, did this help? If he hears no, rejection, but also, what is she going to do? If she's already in that mind frame, could it be possible that she just keeps digging a hole? Because that at times is what I felt back in the day, where you were like, no, that didn't help. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And you would tell me, like, just figure it out. And I'd be like, I'm a guy. Like, if I already got rejected one time, I'm feeling like I want to retreat. But okay, I'm gonna keep asking you, like, what do you want me to do? Then you get more frustrated and you're like, well, just figure it out. I'm just like, and you see how like you just start tumbling down this hill of like, all right, we're just going to get into a huge fight because here I am feeling like I'm trying, and then there you are just, nah.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm really trying to just peg down this whole like equal communication is because the other half of this book is men receive love through respect. So what does a man feel when he does a gesture, trying to be considerate, not knowing the exact key yet, but trying. And he brings like this, his woman, his wife, his girlfriend, fiance, flowers. And he gets rejected. What does the man feel? Definitely not respect. He did it. And this is where we could start like barreling down this whole like interpretation part. Because a man interprets it as, I'm trying. Like, you want me to conquer? You want me to try? I'm trying. And to be like, nah. And especially with that attitude of nah. That's rejection and that's disrespect. So a man, what is he going to do? He's going to retreat. I mean, you could call him a conqueror all you want. But it's like the chances of a man holding himself back from retreating and be like, I'm going to try again. That's a very strong man. They're out there.
We need strong men.
But like, especially in the society that we're living right now, where everything comes easy to a man. Everything's at the fingertips. Everything. He goes, everyone's so, what's the word that I'm looking for? They're so used to getting everything so easy. And so what do they know what hard work is? You know what I mean? And so where's the responsibility of a woman regardless, right? He tried. Where's the appreciation, let's say? Where's the respect? Where's the, hey, you know what? I see you. You took effort. You took a stab at it. You tried.
Well, I think that language of like conquering, then I think we should, because I mean, we do hear like a woman likes to be conquered. And then, so in my head, it's like, okay, when you conquer something, I guess terminology conquered means like you're not there yet. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And so maybe we should just like get rid of it, because it's like, yeah, maybe it doesn't work good in a marriage, because that should have been maybe in the beginning during dating of like conquering of like, okay, I have to get her. I have to win her. And she's saying no, or she's been playing hard to get or whatever. Because yeah, that's not conquering of like, oh, one time where that's just like, for me, that's not conquering. So maybe we should just take conquering out of the picture.
Yeah, but okay.
A woman likes to be conquered.
I think so you go to any marriage conference and you hear the very typical cliche, like when you were boyfriend and girlfriend, you were the conqueror, right? You did everything possible. Once you get married, the man usually like becomes complacent. It's like, I already conquered her. Like, she's mine. I put a ring on it. You know, she's had my babies. It's all good. Like, and then you hear the cliche of like, no, man, you need to go out and conquer your wife. Usually it's in the context of, guys, you need to tell her how pretty she is. Guys, you have to take her out on dates. Guys, you have to make her feel special. But that whole like playing hard to get, and not even playing hard to get, that whole just, it's straight up rejection. Here, I'm going to try this. Nope.
Yeah,
wrong.
doesn't conquering signify that even after that one rejection, like you're going to try again, because that's what conquering is? That's what I don't like that term.
So
I think
my
that term
question is no. My question is, where is the appreciation for the effort? Because that's, okay. You want a man. So, where do we hear that? I think we just heard it. I think it was at church we heard it. You could speak to the king in a man or the what?
Fool.
Or the fool in the man. There you go. So the moment that you reject, you're not talking to the king. A king doesn't get rejected. And I'm not saying, again, that it's everything that he does is going to be gold, right?
Yeah.
I go back to the scenario. Guy tries, gives the flowers. Woman appreciates it, appreciates the gesture, appreciates the effort, appreciates the thought. And then the next day or 2 days after goes, hey, babe, you know, when you tried that, I really appreciated the effort and whatnot. And now that 2 days have blown over, like, I just want you to let you know, like, that's not really my go-to. It doesn't really do anything for me. Like, next time, maybe try chocolates. I like chocolates. Or try giving me a spa. For you, it's spa, money, food, cookies. It's like, your four go-tos.
You forgot coffee, but
Oh, and coffee. Yeah. Starbucks coffee. Those are your 5 go-tos, right? It's just like, but where is, from a woman's perspective, the appreciation of a man trying?
well, I think especially if you're married, I think that appreciation should always be there. And it goes back to living a lifestyle of gratitude, like just being grateful of everything, that you have a husband, that he's trying, that he sees you, even maybe you're not wanting him, that he's not seeing what you want him to see. Like the matter of the fact is that he sees you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that appreciation should be there. You're married to him. He's your person. So I do think they should, in a perfect world, the man does a gesture and the woman says, like, I appreciate you. Like you, I for sure think that.
But with the way that I'm interpreting what you're saying is like, no, the woman can put as many roadblocks as she wants. She can make it as difficult as she wants. She can make the man's life a living hell, but he has to keep trying. No matter what. I don't care how disrespected he feels. I don't care how rejected he feels. Nope. A true man will continue to conquer. That's what I hear.
Well, when I hear conquer, that's what I imagine. A man who's not easily...
You don't think that's a little toxic though?
No, of course. That's why I said maybe, like, where did we come with that word? Maybe people should stop saying it because you said it's a cliche. But maybe it is part of this like toxic mentality that starts being into women of like, he's not trying hard enough. Mm-hmm. Because again, when you said like conquer and then you're like, oh, I offered her flowers and I'm a retreat. I'm like, what kind of conqueror is that? Like, I'm not speaking to the fool in you. I'm not speaking to the king. I thought I was speaking to the warrior in you, but like, he's not there. But maybe it's like, okay, when you're men and women, maybe that is what is it? Like a toxic thing that society has permeated. Like, I love to see in the Bible, like where there's grounds for that.
Okay.
That's something that's made up.
I'm going to read you some quotes from the book.
Okay.
Quote number 1. Husbands are made to be respected, want respect, and expect respect. Mm-hmm. On the same feeling, there's a quote that says, no husband feels fond feelings of affection and love in his heart when he believes his wife has contempt for who he is as a human being. Mm-hmm. And this is basically what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When he doesn't feel respected, his go-to response, granted, I'm not saying it's the right response, but his go-to response is retreat. Mm-hmm. Because as he makes any sort of gesture, any sort of him making a gesture is him putting out his heart. There's vulnerability in it. Mm-hmm. And what does a man expect in that scenario? For a woman to appreciate this gesture of my heart is in my hand and I'm giving it to you, mm-hmm. right? If he doesn't receive that, he feels rejected. He'll bring it back. He'll lock it up. And not only that, he'll probably build a wall around it now because he's like, what the heck? Like, she rejects me. And then the wheels start turning. Well, depending on who you're talking to, but might start turning in regards to like, well, this is what she thinks of me. She thinks I'm a loser. She thinks that I suck. She thinks that I'm a horrible husband, that I haven't figured this out. I don't know what love is. I'm not a Romeo. Mm-hmm. I'm not romantic. I'm not none of this. And so all he has left really that he feels is retreat.
Yeah.
And so I guess a question on the same topic is, what does a woman do to bring out the man that she wants?
I think this has been reiterated in like previous podcasts where you do have to treat him as if he is the man you want. It goes back to that when we talked about what comes first. Is it the action or the identity? And if that man doesn't have the identity of the man that you want, you have to start like planting those seeds. You have to start speaking as if he is. It goes back to what the Bible says with Paul. Like, Paul treated them and spoke to them as if they were already saints, even though they kept messing up over and over. They seemed like, we had that scenario in our churches. We'd be like, oh my gosh, like, was that even a church? Mm-hmm. But he recognized, like, no, their potential, and he spoke to that potential. And so I completely agree with what our pastor said in church, and what you've been saying is if he's not the man that you see him to be or that you want, speak to the man that you see already. Like, treat him, respect him, see him as a king, speak to that. Because there's only two things he can do. He'll either like retreat like a coward from his responsibility and believe that he's not capable of that and it won't work out, or he'll rise. What I've seen in your case, thank God, like you've risen to the occasion where it's like, I know you could have been that man. Like I knew you were that man. And prayer goes a long way, because I think prayer interceding is literally bridging the gap between, I think, of what you can do, what I can do, and then what God can do. Because you in your own strength can't be that man. I can't force you to be that man. Like it's only God's grace and favor who could take you to be that man. And so speaking to that man, but also like praying to God at the same time is what a woman can do.
And I actually heard a podcast this weekend that just passed. It's the Chris Williamson, and he had Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, he had him on, which I thought was interesting. There was one clip that I saw before. It's not the clip that I'm talking about, but he has some good stuff to say. You know,
He seems like he's a man of faith. I think Catholic, but he seems like
yeah. And so it was actually Chris Williamson that brought it up. He's a British guy, and he's like, Matthew, have you ever heard of the Michelangelo effect? And Matthew was like, no, I haven't. Tell me about it. And so the way that he says it is there was many people that tried to make the sculpture of David. So if anybody has ever seen it, it's apparently very massive. I've never seen it, but apparently it's very massive. People had tried to make the statue of David for many years, and it was only Michelangelo that was able to make it. And he said that he got a block of marble and he stared at it for a very long time. And once he started working, apparently somebody asked him, like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm chipping away everything that's not David. And so I'm going to read this. The Michelangelo effect, also known as the Michelangelo phenomenon, is a model that describes how close partners influence each other and help each other achieve their ideal selves. And I think it goes with what you're saying right now, that both a woman and a man see the good in each other. They see possibly, you could call it the potential. You could call it the purpose, you know, that person has in their life, and you start helping them become that, right? Now, how you do that is very important as well. Because some people think that through negative reinforcement is how you're going to get the man or the woman that you really want. Negative reinforcement meaning you're a loser for doing this. You suck because you do that. Thinking that they're going to do the opposite of what you said that they suck at.
or withdrawing services or things.
And it's just like, that's not the way.
Yeah.
That is not the way. It is through encouragement and through belief and letting them know. And that's where the words of affirmation both ways means a lot to each other, because like, this is what I see. And you've done that before. And I've said it here before, like where you're like, David, you're too complacent. You are way too comfortable. And I see you doing way more than what you're doing right now. Right now, to me, you are sitting on your butt. And in between the lines, a man can interpret that and be like, oh, she's calling me lazy. But when you said that to me, I actually felt something like be pulled out of me and just like, all right, this is uncomfortable because I am comfortable and I don't want to be uncomfortable, but she's seeing something in me. And that to a man, I think, feels very special. For a woman to be like, I see more in you. You can do more. And for it to be genuine, because some people might interpret that as, oh, she just wants me to make more money. Oh, you know, like she just wants to brag about me and she feels like she can't brag about me right now. Whatever it is. But if a woman really does that, I think that is a level of respect. Like, I see more in you to a man means a lot. It says, there's more potential in you. There's more purpose in you. I see you doing greater things than what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
That drives a man. That motivates a man. You want to bring a man like out of the comfort or shell that he's in right now. Tell him that he's meant for more. And that's, again, speaking to the king in him, Like right now, you're not at a kingship right now. I see you doing more. I see you ruling more. I see you being a man of action. I see you doing all these things. Now, again, a man has the choice. Do I step up or do I retreat? Right.
Yeah.
But you did that so many times to me where I feel like God has used you to like chip away things that are not David. And that's why I really love when I heard that. I'm like, that's really beautiful that two people can be in a relationship and we could help each other out to be the better versions that we were meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, and like, that's something that I've always loved. And especially, I'll bring it up, that one time that we went on that hike. I was like, we are doing tough things together.
Yeah.
And we are going through pain and struggle together, but we're conquering together. And just the fact that we're doing something hard together
Yeah.
is what means the world to me. And so, I think that's so beautiful for that to happen and that to be planted and then for it to give fruit.
Thank you, babe. I love you. I know. Like in a joke, I was like, David, we can't get a divorce because the person who marries him, like, it's not fair.
Gets your finished product.
All of the investment and the time and the work that I took.
Yeah.
But it's not just me. You've obviously, like, you rose to the occasion. But I think that's also, as you were talking, I'm like, that's what a parent, a teacher, a coach does. Like, you've seen bad parents, bad teachers where they're like, you're dumb. How can you not get this? Like, this is easy. And you see the kids' morale, the kids' confidence just go down where they feel horrible of themselves. Or you see the good teacher and you're like, no, it's not that they are trying to, how you say, like, ruin the kid's life. It's not that they're trying to make it harder for them. It's like, I believe, I care about you. I know you can do this. I'm helping you to do this. And so I think a woman, how it said it, she builds her house. She teaches, she constructs, she kind of helps guide the way. And so I think we have a huge call on our life. I think I love womanhood, and I think God created us, how you said, we're equal in value, but it's how we receive love is totally different. And I think the way God is, it's like, I always say this, it's like he gave us what's like our natural being. And he's like, I don't want you to be like this. Like, I want you to live on earth and make yourself better. So it's weird because I always say, like, it's easy for a woman to lead and take the reins and say, I'm going to do this. But a woman who leads in her house can easily tear down her house. And God hasn't called us to lead. Like, he's saying, you got that down. Like, okay, calm down. And I want you to learn how to help, not do everything on yourself. And a man usually is passive, wants to retreat. You said it yourself. Like, they want to hide and take the easy way out. And God is like, okay, good, you got that down. But now I want you to learn how to lead and conquer.
Yeah.
And I think this goes in multiple things. Like, we naturally have pride, and God is like, I'm trying to teach you humility. Like, a lot of what comes natural to us isn't what God has for us. So we always say, like, you have to take that hard route, because as you were talking, I was thinking about, okay, let's look at it through the man's perspective. Like, he has to learn how to love. And you said, like, men are just logical, and like, I give respect. Like, they can easily talk to their bosses and give respect. They can talk to their coworkers and their teammates with respect, even maybe their wife with respect. And we're like, this is weird. Like, I don't feel loved. Like, it's like, is anything wrong? Like, you see so many memes and so many reels where the woman's like, is anything wrong? And like, no. Like, do you love me? It's like, yes. And it's like, I don't feel like it. And they're like, what the heck? Like, do you want from me? But I was seeing, and I don't know, you tell me, like, do you think that's easy for a man? Because I was looking up the verse of like what love is in 1 Corinthians.
Okay.
And where it says, like, love is patient and kind. It isn't envy. It's not arrogant or rude. It doesn't insist in its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It doesn't rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices the truth. It protects, trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And I feel like, as you were saying, like, men, I don't know, I can imagine myself in a scenario like having a hard day or like trying to tell you, and you're just like, and I don't want to say every man is like you or anything, but just like irritable, okay, like what's with the point, or not be hopeful of like, oh, things are always going to be this way, or yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's easy for a man to do that? Do you think it's something that they have to learn?
Easy for a man to be hopeful?
All of it. Patient, kind, not envy, boast, not arrogant, rude, not insisting in its own way, not irritable.
Not all of it. I mean, I think we all struggle with little bits and pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. No, I think it's possible for both man and woman to live that out. But then some of it does come down to, childhoods, upbringings.
Yeah.
Do they even love themselves? Because somebody might be carrying themselves very well, and it's kind of like a mask, but in reality, they don't even love themselves.
Yeah.
And so that can come out as a projection of irritability, being angry, easy to anger, like blowing up, like all these things could be a very big possibility. Another quote from the book: when a husband feels disrespected, he has a natural tendency to react in ways that feel unloving to his wife. Perhaps the command to love was given to him precisely for this reason. When a wife feels unloved, she has a natural tendency to react in ways that feel disrespectful to her husband. Perhaps the command to respect was given to her precisely for this reason. And craziness happens when we keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. And this can be a very ugly cycle within a relationship.
Yeah.
And it leads to hardcore pride. And we've been there before. And I wouldn't even say that long ago. We've been there before. Where a man's like, I want to be respected. And the woman goes, that's cute. I want to be loved. You'll be respected when I feel the love. And the man goes, well, you'll get the love when I feel respected. And around and around and around it goes.
Yeah.
And the more it goes around, the worse it gets. Because then you just start building a big pile of not nice stuff, really. Because they're both thinking, well, he doesn't love me. He doesn't appreciate me. She doesn't respect me. She doesn't care about what I feel. She is selfish. He's selfish. Like, just a bunch of ugliness. And so it always goes back to, whose responsibility is it? And it's both. The thing that me and you went through, we went to therapy, and I feel like, I don't remember if we really talked about it, but I feel like there came a point in therapy where it was like we had done a good amount of skills. We had a good amount of conversations with the therapist there, and on rides home and stuff. And I feel like it came to a point where we were both at the beginning of a bridge, and we were both like, "Are you gonna cross the bridge?" And the bridge really was, the bridge represented, I am trusting my husband that he's going to love me. And I'm going to walk this bridge, and I don't know if halfway through this bridge, it's going to burn and I'm going to fall. Same thing. I'm going to trust that my wife is going to respect me and love me the way that I need, that she's going to be appreciative of me, that she's going to be thoughtful of me as well. And I feel like we were both there, and we kind of like looked at each other, and we were like, are you going to cross? I don't know. Are you going to cross? Well, we got to cross. Like,
yeah.
It basically came down to, do we want this relationship to work or not? Because if we don't cross, and just call it quits. But that's where the faith comes in. In a relationship, you need faith.
Yeah.
And one thing that helped us was, I don't know if you came to this by yourself or if the therapist just blatantly asked you, like, do you feel like David loves you? And you said, yeah, I do. And, it was almost like an anchor of ours. It's like whenever we felt like our ship was getting all crazy in the middle of a storm, we had to ask each other or ask ourselves, does grace love me? Mm-hmm. If the answer is yes, that is my anchor. The waters are still going to be rough and we got to tough through it. But my anchor is she does love me. We can work through this. And the same thing when you felt feelings of being unloved. The question was always, does he love me? If the answer is yes, then that will be my anchor and we're going to make it through this, you know? Yeah. And I feel like we both chose to walk across that bridge and we both out of faith said, I'm going to respect him regardless if he, you know, loves me. And I had to do the same. I'm going to love her regardless if I feel respected. And it's at that point felt like I'm going to plant a seed. I don't know when I'm going to see even a little leaf come out of the soil, but I'm going to plant it and I'm going to water it. And I hope to God, I even see a leaf because a leaf is a sign of progress.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, like you plant that seed and you don't know that there's life until pop, something comes out. And it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month, whatever. And I feel like at that point, we made a decision. I'm going to love her. I'm going to respect him. We're going to plant these seeds and we're going to keep watering all these seeds. And eventually we're going to have a garden. Mm. And I feel like we made a garden. But for a lot of people, they go into the cycle and that's, you know, a testament to how they grew up, a testament to our culture, our society. Just, it's a tit for tat. You do this, I do that. I do that, you do this. Like a back and forth, back and forth.
And I think it's difficult. And one of the reasons why the tit for tat is so easy to do is because in reality, when you take that leap of faith and you decide like, I'm going to just love her even if she doesn't do anything. If I see your genuineness or if I decide to take that leap of faith, I'm like, I'm going to respect him. And once you start loving someone or serving someone, you want to then return that favor. Like it's just natural. Once you're like, oh my goodness, I feel loved, I'm going to love you. And so you kind of naturally see that tit for tat. And so then you start thinking, then you kind of have to catch yourself and remember like your why, and gratitude always has to be in the favor because you can easily have a bad day and then be like, oh, they didn't do that or whatever. I'm not going to do this. Or like, okay, now I want to do this only if you do this. Because in the original design, God made it so you always take care of my needs and I always take care of your needs. And it's not tit for tat. It's just serving one another.
Yeah.
Serving one another. But then again, from the outside perspective, even people have seen it. They're like, look, a healthy marriage does that. Why don't you do that for me? Well, they do that for her. Okay, well, I'll do it for you if you do it for me or whatever. Mm-hmm. And even in a healthy marriage, we can easily, if there's no gratitude, replicate that and it look like tit for tat and then start again in that cycle if that's what we're used to. Always have to catch ourselves. But I think that's why it's so easy to go into that tit for tat mentality because it's the same shape and it looks the same. It's just the intent and the mindset really that are different.
Yeah. And I think there's a key point that you said, having a heart of service. Mm-hmm. I think having a heart of service is to have a heart of selflessness.
Yeah.
Where you can genuinely put the other person in front of you. And that's very hard for a lot of people because a lot of people, have grown up with hearing it or feeling it. Nobody has my back. Nobody is going to love me like I love me.
Yeah.
People are just going to hurt me, so I need to protect myself, you know? And it can be very scary for a lot of people to like be completely vulnerable and actually have that heart of service because they go, I feel like I'm being used. I feel like I'm running on empty. What can I give if I'm running on empty? Like I have nothing to give. I need to be filled first and then I can.
Yeah.
But that thought of, you know, feeling empty, like it's especially biblically, like it's not an excuse. Like Elijah and Elisha both encountered, I believe it was widows that said, I ain't got squat. And then what happened? They ended up with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Faith did what faith does. God did what he does, and boom. So that thought of, I ain't got nothing to give. It's like, no, you got something to give.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's in those seasons where it's most difficult, because I think it's obviously so easy to give love or to give respect if you're feeling it. But to really test if it's genuine, it's going to be in those seasons where it's hard to give. In the seasons where your partner is having such a bad day, or maybe a week or a month or whatever, they're in their low season. And that's where that's the only way to test, like, is this love that I've been given and this respect that I'm giving, like, genuine?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to push through even if, how you say it, right now it looks like they don't deserve it, or it looks like in vain. But then if you do it in that season, seasons change, and the next season you'll reap it because you're planting it in them. And if you treat them like that, like, it's just natural law that they're going to be like, wow, this person loves me, and then come back to their senses. But it's in those times where it's so difficult to give it.
And I think there's a couple of things that is at work when you practice that heart of service and the heart of selflessness. One, you're representing God, right? Whether you give something back to me or not, I'm here. I'll love you. I'll give you my everything.
Yeah.
Two, it's helping you yourself a lot, because the world can be a very ugly place. And so if you never get, let's say, a desire of yours, you know, like, I want somebody to love me or embrace me, whatever. Like, if you never get that and you could still love, that says so much about you.
Yeah.
That is strength. That is faith. That is 100% pure love. That's selflessness. That's servitude. Like, that's so many beautiful things. Granted, easier said than done.
Yeah.
But
sure.
it does help you so much, because you are allowing God and his love to form you. And if you allow God to be that big of a part of your life, where he is your strong tower, to be a strong tower, like, you're unmovable. And if you allow him to be your strong tower, again, you will not be moved by much.
Yeah.
There is so much strength in that. But the world is telling you, you do that and you are weak. You are going to fall. You're going to fail. You're going to hurt. You're going to cry. You're going to, who knows? The list can be endless, but that's like the counterculturalness of God.
That's the conquering spirit. We'll bring it back. Wouldn't you say?
Okay. But then, if we are going to according to this book, when a man feels disrespected, what is his tendency?
Yeah, but we're saying, like, in this season, if, let's say, the other person who you love, who you know loves you, but they're in a season of right now, a bad season or whatever it is, that's the conquering spirit, where you say, like, I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
And rely on God, even though right now I'm not seeing the fruit.
Based on the context that we just talked about, is conquering unisex or only one sex?
Well, based on the context that we just said, it's unisex. It's whoever is realizing that I have to be selfless, even if I'm not getting anything.
Because originally, in the context that we were originally talking about, it sounded like we were just saying only a man conquers, not a woman.
Yeah, and that's why I love the book. What was the book that I told you?
Don't look at me.
No, Wild at Heart.
Oh, the woman version?
The woman version. Starts with the C, you know? It's going to bug me.
I don't know.
The woman version, Captivating.
Oh, yeah.
Captivating. Woohoo. That book is so good because it says, like, we all have seen, like, we like the princess stories and stuff, but we've all seen glimpses of, like, seen war movies, and we're like, ooh, I'd want to be a part of that. I'd want, like, the Lord of the Rings, the one where she's like, I'm not a man, I'm a woman, and, like, takes off her helmet or her mask or whatever, and we're just like, she's like a badass woman. Like, there's a part in woman that we desire to be part of, that conquering spirit, where it's like, let me be with my husband hand in hand, like, fighting this war. Let me be his helper. Let me be. So yeah, I think we have that desire in us. And I think part of us, if we didn't have that conquering spirit in us, then we wouldn't be able to call out what we don't see and continue to do it for so long. I think made in the image of God, that God himself is victorious and the conqueror of death and darkness itself, like that has to be in both. I think, just to stir the pot a little bit, and I think men in a perfect world should do it first, should lead by example. I think God has called men to lead. So in a perfect world, men would do it first. That's not always the case. So it might be now, unfortunately, because we live in a fallen world, we see now the woman is always like known to be the praying woman over her husband and praying over her kids. And like the man kind of, you always see the stereotypical like Christian man just kind of like staying there. And the woman is like the fighting warrior. I think that's not what God has called it to. And I think the world would have less broken families, less broken marriages, less broken children if the man did take up his role. And I think there's such a huge attack on men that men are not that anymore because they have such a special role that if they just took their full potential, there would be like revolutions like worldwide. Like it'd be crazy because the definition of respect is a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. Like there is something in a man that they have to do something. They're leaders. They're like that's what God made them to do. And if they just do that, women are automatically going to be like, oh my goodness, like that awe that men like. And in return, that's going to be easy for a man to give the love that the woman wants. And like the circle goes on and on. Unfortunately, now we're in a world where us women, we're like in awe of like who we think you can be, you know? But how much easier would it have been if in God's original design, like men lead, we see it, we all praise you, men love, and like the cycle just goes and goes. But the reality is it's going to be broken there, here and there. And it's up to the one who loves God to do their duty, and having God in the center and him being your strength, fix that cycle once again for either party.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. Starting to wrap this up, I feel like we have to do like a part 2 of this because I feel like we only like dipped our toes a little bit in this.
I'm down.
But so let's just do an overview. So a woman, based on what you said, a big part of feeling loved is the consideration part. Hear my heart and consider how you can help me, how you can love me, how you can embrace me, how you can kiss me, how you can, just straight up love me, right? I think there's more to it.
Yeah.
You know, there's the conquering part in like regards to like, even if you're married, date your wife, surprise her, you know, like all these things. There's more. And that's why I feel like we need to do like a part 2. For a man, I don't feel like we would touch so much into it, just about, you know, like just respect, you know, and it was very general what we talked about. And I feel like we can go deeper into it. But long story short, a man wants to feel respected. That's the way that we feel love. Yeah. By respect, it means, you know, our feelings are taken into account, that our decisions are believed to be ones that are in the best interest of the whole family. And we can get into even a debate of like questioning a decision of a man and what that does for a man, what that does for a woman, why it happens. But in reality, I fully agree with this book. And again, if you guys haven't read it, I would highly suggest it because it is very good. It's very interesting. It gives you very good insight. If you guys can read it with your significant other, it would be a huge blessing to you guys. But that is basically the first part and the overview of this book. Women want to be loved. Men want to be respected. It takes faith. Yeah. It takes selflessness. It takes vulnerability. It takes a little bit of risk, or so it feels like risk.
Yeah.
And but if you can do it, it's beautiful. It's been beautiful for us, you know, like growing from where we were before to how we are now. And, you know, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, like, again, very grateful for the road we've been on, the tough times that we've gone through, that we've stuck by each other, even though there's been times we wanted to rip each other's faces off.
Yep.
But we've managed to work through it. We've managed to apologize. We've managed to heal with each other. We've managed to embrace each other. We've managed to hear each other's mistakes and downfalls and still walk together and learn together. I know I've learned so much being with you, and I've had a lot of moments where I've heard God, which is another big plus while being with you. And that's beautiful, and it also just confirms, like, this is the wife that God had for me. Like, we're making it work. We're putting in the work, and for me, I'll always be grateful for the hard times that we've gone through and that we've stuck by each other. Like, that means the world to me, because I come from a background that you usually screw up and you're kind of pushed away, but I'm glad that we haven't fully pushed each other away, and that we're walking hand in hand, side by side, and that we're trying to conquer this thing called life.
And you've conquered me, because there's so many times where you should have retreated from my nasty ways of like throwing arrows and bullets your way, and you've stood your ground. So I'm proud of you, and I love you, and thank you for not giving up on us.
I love you very much.
I love you.
And that concludes episode 38. Again, we will probably do another deep dive on this book. This book is amazing. There's a lot of good stuff in it. There's more things that we could talk about. But we appreciate you guys tuning in for this time, tuning in for this episode. We just ask you to like, subscribe, follow, share. We appreciate the views. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the times that we see you in person. You guys say like, hey, like, I've been watching your episode and they're awesome. Like, that means a lot to us. And we hope that all these episodes can be a blessing to you guys. So again, happy late Thanksgiving. We love you all, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.